What's up, you guys, and welcome to another episode of the Ask Alex Show. Man, I love doing this show every time we get a chance to do it, and I couldn't do this show without my amazing co-host, Mr. Jeremy Branch from Movies Are the Pop Culture Nihilist. How are you doing today, Jeremy?
Man, I was confused, Alex. I apologize about that. I was like, I'm hearing double of your voice. It's getting crazy and chaotic. I got a browser open in the other window where I was actually checking out the live stream. So that's on me. I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. Thanks for having me. Boy, oh boy, I read last night. This is wild. This is wild. They just now arrested someone in connection with the murder of Tupac Shakur.
Yo, what do you know? It's funny. I forgot all about that. I saw that last night too. After what 30 years or so. What do you think? I mean, you were alive during that era, man. So, and I was like, when he died, he died in 92 right now, or 93,
96.
96. So I was 3 years old. So what was that like in that era, man? Like,
So I was 15, I believe, maybe 14. So I was pretty young as well, but I remember it vividly. It was a pivotal moment in the world of hip hop, obviously. I mean, I still contend that if Tupac's not the greatest, he's on the Mount Rushmore of the greatest. There's just something about his delivery and his ability to be able to kind of step into the realm of just the heaviest like gangster rap you've ever heard, and then also like the more socially conscious, kind of politically minded stuff that he did. So I was a huge Tupac fan even back when this happened. And his death and Biggie's deaths corresponded within a matter of like months. I mean, it might have been a year. I don't remember exactly. They were very close in proximity, and many people speculated that these things had to be related because there was this huge rivalry between them. They used to be friends, and then there was like the fracture of them and the East Coast West Coast thing, and there was like a BET maybe it was MTV Music Awards when Snoop Dogg, they were in New York, and Snoop Dogg was kind of like
The Source Awards.
Oh, Source Awards. Yeah. Good call. It was tense. It was tense in America. But the reason why I give all the context is to say these guys were huge profile. Everybody in America knew who Tupac was. And when he got shot, it was just such a strange thing. There's been conspiracy theories and documentaries covering was it police involvement, et cetera, et cetera. Not a lot of information came out yesterday, but I believe it was one of the cousins of a guy that was arrested many years ago, was taken in for questioning in regards to it. And it's just crazy. Like, no matter what the cold case is, like, I would have never thought that the investigation into the murder of Tupac was still happening 27 years later. But to see movement in it is just, it's interesting, and it takes me back to a different era.
But what surprises me about this is what's intriguing about it is that we've had, like you said, documentaries, biopics. I mean, TV shows. I mean, I've seen Tupac portrayed throughout my life by many actors and also many TV special. I remember 60 Minutes did a special on Biggie and Tupac, just the icons of them dying. And to see after so many years, they finally arrested the guy who killed Tupac. I thought, and maybe it's because of gang and hood culture, that man was already, dead because they took one of their leaders away. They took someone, they took someone out. So that's why I'm like, the reason why it's probably unsolved because the guy who probably did it is probably dead. Like,
it's a really good point. Yeah, I never even would have stopped to consider that. That is a good point. What was just so crazy to me is like, it was on the Vegas Strip. There were thousands of people around when it happened. So anyways, kind of crazy. Yeah, just wanted to bring that up. But I know you actually had a interesting thing you wanted to discuss before we get into the official questions.
Oh, definitely. But I'm glad you brought that up as well, man. And
yeah,
I wanted to bring it to your attention. So apparently, according to Deadline, the director of the last Halloween movie is considering either a continuation or a remake or just a whole revision of the franchise. I came to I so backstory. I've watched the original Halloween. I think that came out way before I was born. Um, I watched that one before, and it's the same. It's the same person who essentially plays the person trying to kill Michael Myers. But anyway, the story I've noticed throughout the Halloween franchises are the same but modernized to the times of our world to an extent. To a certain
Shouts to Mark McKeever in the chat. What's up, my guy? Happy Saturday to you as well. And you're a nerd.
Definitely. Shout out to Mr. Mark.
Sorry, go ahead, Alex.
Also, oh, you're fine. Oh, and shout out to Lucid Memory as well.
Hey.
And also shout out to Steam Yard. But I wanted to ask you, because I know you're familiar. You're way more familiar with this franchise than I am. I can say, as an average fan, as myself, I think they should just get rid of it and just allow it to be what it is, because it's clear Michael Myers can't die. He's a sentient being who's been killed multiple and multiple and multiple. But it's like Freddy, like you kill him and he comes back and he comes back. It's like there is no end. Like at this point, I don't think they're human. They're just alien at this point. So if they were to bring back, Halloween, do you think it would be a good idea, or do you think they could revise it in a way where it could be actually better than his predecessor?
So it's going to be very difficult to ever recapture the thing that John Carpenter did with 1978's film. It's an iconic film. It gave us an iconic image of Michael Myers, this character in a white expressionless mask and kind of just stalking, like similar to Jaws. Just stalking his prey, no clear motive, nothing as far as like humanity that you can see in this character. And I think that's really interesting. The original pitch for Halloween was that it was going to be an anthology series, right? Like the first one was going to be about Michael Myers, this masked killer. Maybe the next one was going to be about a ghost story. Maybe the next one was going to be about zombies or a werewolf, etc. So every Halloween or every couple Halloweens, there would be a new horror movie that came out, and the only relation between them was the title of Halloween. And that would have been brilliant. That would have been the best idea. But because Halloween was such a big success, the studios were like, we got to get John Carpenter back. We got to get Michael Myers back. And we got to bang this thing out again. We got to make the same movie over again, because this was during the slasher movie boom. People liked that one. It's a decent follow-up. The next year, though, John Carpenter's like, look, if we're going to keep cranking these things out, we got to go to the anthology model, because the anthology model, it frees us up to be able to tell a lot of stories. Halloween 3 is called Season of the Witch. Michael Myers does not appear in it. It's a movie about a company called Silver Shamrock that's manufacturing Halloween masks. And when the kids wear the Halloween masks and the song from the commercial plays, it's going to melt all the kids' heads and like kill all of the children for some reason. I don't exactly know, but people hated it, man. People hated it. It didn't have Michael Myers in it. They're like, we don't know, we came to see a Halloween movie, so we came to see a Michael Myers movie, because they screwed up by bringing him back in the second movie. I say all this to fast forward to the last Halloween movie, Halloween Ends. It's the third movie in a trilogy done by David Gordon Green. The first movie was incredibly successful and well-liked. Halloween Kills less so. Halloween Ends, people generally think it sucks, though I thought it was really good. But the crazy thing is they planted this seed that maybe the mask is the thing that possesses the power. Maybe there's something about the town of Haddonfield that creates this evil, almost like the movie It with Derry. But they had set up this new killer. This perfect guy to pick up the mask and carry on the mantle. It's not Michael Myers, but it's somebody that's absorbed or inherited the same evil that possessed Michael Myers for all those years. And then they kill that guy 30 minutes before the movie ends. And it makes no sense because we could have used this as a kickoff point for a new franchise. So, to answer your question, with a movie title like Halloween, you can't give it up. You can't let the rights lapse and somebody else get the title Halloween, because Halloween comes every single year. There's a built-in audience for horror movies. We're going to go out and see them. So Halloween is too valuable of an IP to let the rights lapse. But I don't need another Michael Myers movie, man. I've been done with it for a while. It's funny, you say I'm familiar with the franchise. I'm familiar enough with the franchise to admit that it's pretty garbage. Like there's a couple of good movies in it, there's a couple of good movies in it, but mostly they're all trash, and it's indifferential from one to the next. And I believe if Halloween 3 and if Halloween Ends has taught studios anything, it's just to keep it the same, because as long as you keep it the same, stupid people are going to continue to enjoy it. So while you and I might not think it's a great idea to continue on this franchise, I think we're in the minority as far as horror fans. So here we go again. Let's see what happens.
I mean, you have a pretty good point. I mean, in terms of like, from how it started, I like how you brought it back to the original and how we got to where it ended. I have a good point. Like, you can acknowledge the fact that it's a trash franchise for the most part, but also in how it ended. I will say this. I did watch Halloween Ends. By the way, it is on Peacock, so you got Peacock, you can watch it. It's not, I don't think it's the most creative franchise. And like you said, it did make it seem like the mask is probably that thing that can essentially possesses people to be the next Michael Myers, or have the spirit of Michael Myers in it. And I just think personally, if they're going to redo it, do it in a way where it's like, for instance, like do like a Halloween Legacy, kind of like Scream. Everybody in Ghostface is different.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Like how come Michael Myers never had kids or relatives?
Yeah.
I mean, that could like if I were pissed off that you killed my brother, okay, I would like come back as this thing, but in a different way. You know what I'm saying? So but I think if they attacked it from that perspective, it'd probably be more entertaining versus the same person playing this killer. I don't know.
I get what you mean. You mean if one of the victims' brothers was killed by Michael Myers?
Yeah, or
Okay.
like, yeah, that, or let's just say if Michael Myers had a cult following and they found out that Michael Myers himself died, so somebody from the cult takes on the mantle.
That's a cool idea. Yeah. I like that.
Like just don't make it the same person. Like you mean to tell me the same person from 1978 is the same person in 2023?
Yeah, I feel you. I think that's a good point. Yeah.
So like I think they should definitely scrap it and do something more original. If you bring it back, do something completely different. Like knock all the things off the wall, kind of like what James Gunn is about to do in the DCU, which we're about to jump right into. But you guys, I forgot to mention, if you want your question or topic on the show, it's very simple. Send me an email at theaskalexshow@gmail.com. That's theaskalexshow@gmail.com. And also, I just want to let you guys know, if you cannot watch this show on YouTube live as we're doing it live, whoops, I don't know how I did that. Doing it live, you can listen to it on Spotify. It is made available on Spotify. So if you want to watch it on or listen to it on Spotify, you can do that as well. Now, let's go ahead and jump into our first topic, as we alluded to before. And this topic comes from a reoccurring viewer and questionnaire, Miss Iris Peoples.
The absolute best. Shout out to Iris.
Yeah, she's been rocking ever since, I want to say, 2019. So
yeah,
she still watches the show and still sends me amazing questions. And she writes, "Hey guys, so I noticed that James Gunn is getting ready to launch his DCU with Creature Commandos. He was recently interviewed and said that three people from the old regime will be coming to the DCU, but also that nothing in the DCU EU was canon. Also, he mentioned that there will be new DC news on the way throughout before the end of this year. What do you guys think about James Gunn's comments? And do you think that this will be a brand new start for the DCU and for its fans?
So we
Well,
got Solo, or Zolo from Cobra Kai. I can't pronounce his last name. I don't even want to butcher it, but fantastic actor. We've
mhm.
got Viola Davis, who played Amanda Waller. Awesome. And then we've also got who's the third person that they're bringing back from the old regime?
John Cena.
We've got John Cena as Peacemaker. So
Mhm.
that's where we're at right now. Just wanted to bring those up for the people at home who may not know who's being carried over.
Yeah. So apparently, if you look at like this screen I just brought up, all these actors except for Sholo right there, the rest of them are not coming, but Sholo's coming,
Bye.
Viola's coming, and also John Cena,
Mm.
Peacemaker is coming. Now, to address some of the things in that article that did come out on Deadline and also the Hollywood Reporter, I like the fact that he's getting rid of the DCEU. I think we need a brand new start of getting us to get to know these same characters, but also in a different light. So I'm excited about that. I like Blue Beetle, so if they're gonna bring Sholo back, I think that's amazing. I love Peacemaker. What I'm concerned about bringing John Cena back is that if you're saying nothing in the DCEU is canon, well, he was canon in that DCEU. So how are you going to do Peacemaker 2? Same thing with Viola. I love Viola Davis. Amanda Waller is the Amanda Waller I saw in the Justice League TV animated shows and what I read in comics. Like, she's a badass. But again, her interactions with the Suicide Squad and even in being in Peacemaker when she was in that show, how do you continue further that narrative without mentioning the events of season 1? So again, I'm interested to see where he takes those characters. Now, to answer the broader question, how do I feel about the big news that's coming this way, whatever big news that may be? I mean, I'm open to anything at this point. I'm not I'm excited that they're burning it all down and reshaping it. What I'm concerned about is I hope James and Peter do not give these movies like over $200 million budgets for for some of these characters, because I don't believe that's how you should effectively start it out, unless you're doing like, if you start off the first movie with a Justice League movie, okay, cool. Which he's kind of doing with Superman Legacy, because there's other metahumans in there. But I'm excited to see it. I'm excited for these three to come back. I'm excited that the DCEU is no longer canon. Thank God. It does make me wonder, is Jason Momoa really coming over as Lobo? Which I'm considered, but also someone pointed out to me that post credit scene in The Flash where he goes into multiple universe. He told Aquaman, he said, "Well, essentially, you're Aquaman in every universe that I visited. Like, you're the same Aquaman, just a different person, a different version." And I was just like, okay, that's one cop out if he were to bring him over. But I feel like if James Gunn was going to bring him over as Aquaman, I think he would have mentioned it.
Yeah, seems like it.
But Jeremy, you've heard this news. You know that these three particular actors and characters are coming over. What do you think about James Gunn's bringing these people over? And also, what do you think about the big news that should be slowly approaching before the end of the year?
It was me and you that were talking about box office and the
Mhm.
DCEU, whether or not it was gonna kind of fizzle out the last time we did an Ask Alex.
Mhm.
And a commenter, and I thought it was a good point, basically said that all Superman Legacy would have to do to be considered a success is, I think he said, what Guardians of the Galaxy 3 just did in the box
Mm.
office.
Yeah.
That's a huge ask, though, man. I mean, we look at what Man of Steel did. I check my math, but I think it was like 650 million, and then
Yeah.
Batman versus Superman was lower than that. So
Mm-hmm.
Guardians of the Galaxy, part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, not to mention one of the most beloved series within the MCU. So I do think that's a tall order. It's interesting, man. And this is what we've kind of always talked about. It's like how much stays from leftovers and how
Mm-hmm.
much is completely built from the ground up. Like, how do you pick and choose which of those elements is worthy of going forward versus which ones aren't? The Suicide Squad didn't come out at a good time as far as like to make the most money, but it wasn't the most successful of the DCEU movies. So why does John Cena get a shot? I mean, Peacemaker was really beloved, but why doesn't Margot Robbie get a shot? I mean, she was great as Harley Quinn. Was it's just it's hard to parse for me like what it is about one of these people versus the other than just strictly on merit alone. Viola Davis is like perfect as Amanda Waller. I think most people would agree with that sentiment. I think John Cena is pretty freaking perfect as Peacemaker. Like I love that series, so I'm not being disparaging when I say that, but I also feel like if you could level a lot of criticisms against Zack Snyder, or you could level a lot of criticisms against David Ayer, casting was not on that list because I thought Ben Affleck was a pretty good Batman. I think a lot of people really liked Affleck as Batman. Yes, he's getting older, and I know that's a big part of it. I don't envy anybody who has to step into the cape of Superman after Henry Cavill because there were problems with those movies, but I think Henry Cavill was about as perfect of as Clark Kent / Superman you could get. Coming from somebody who doesn't really know a lot about the legacy of the character. So like it's weird. It's weird to pick and choose. I say you have to wipe the slate clean. I say as much as I loved John Cena, and I do, I watched WWE wrestling. I think the guy's freaking fantastic. As much as I love Viola Davis, it's like you gotta wash your hands of the whole thing. And the fact that they didn't, it really it really makes very little difference to me, but I think the average audience is going to look at it and be like, hey, I recognize that thing from before. This is more of that thing from before that I didn't like in the first place. So I think they're really messing with fire in a lot of ways. Like you said, budgets, if the budgets are too high, if everything is too linked up together, if they're mixing the old and the new, like they're taking a lot of very big risks instead of focusing on just doing a good Superman legacy movie.
Yeah, man. And I know some of you guys seen what I was doing in the back. I'm sorry, I'm still learning this whole live
I
thing,
didn't
but
even notice, dude. Don't worry about it.
but to your point, you're right. Like I do think that they do have some form of good footing, but I do think that we should just approach every project a project at a time. Don't be so overhyped about so much building your cinematic universe, but focus on one project at a time, whether it's TV, movies, whatever. I will say this. I'm eagerly excited to see what their vision is going to be because and I hate saying it like this and it's not necessarily competition for me speaking for myself, but I'm getting a little bit of Marvel fatigue and I want to see something. My argument has always been with comic book movies, but movies in general. I want to see something different.
Mm-hmm.
Different. That's we were talking about Star Wars earlier before we got jumped on live. I want to see something different.
Yep.
I don't want to see the same story or remnants of the same story continually being told. Now I understand, Clark Kent's going to be Clark Kent and Superman's going to be Superman. Yes, but tell this story from a narrative that we have never seen before.
Yep.
So that's what I want to see going forward. I am for James Gunn revamping this whole universe. Did you have any more to add to this? Or
No, I agree with you, and I think that James Gunn is the guy for the job. I definitely don't want to seem too negative on it. I'm hedging my bets, so we'll see what happens.
Oh yeah, yeah, me too. I'm definitely hedging my bets as well. But yeah, we are supportive of James Gunn and Peter Safran, and I want to point out we don't want to see them fail. We love these characters and we love the different type of movies that have come out, so we want to see them succeed. So I can't wait to see what happens when they finally do release their cinematic universe. Um, Now we're about to jump into our next topic. Now, our next topic doesn't necessarily come from a questionnaire. I did have some questions in regards to this topic, but it has nothing to do exactly with. It has nothing. It has something to do with the topic, but it has nothing to do with the person addressing the topic. I
Okay.
will say this. This is, and again, what we're about to jump into. This is not a bash video or anything like that, but I wanted to address his concerns and also make sure that I'm not coming off as arrogant as he would in a sense. So that's why I have Jeremy, and if Ian were here, I would have Ian on here as well. So what I'm referring to, yesterday, John Campea on his show talked about development of Aladdin 2. The first live action Aladdin movie made over $1 billion. And apparently there were talks of it being made. Now, John Campea, just to give a small recap, he believes the reason why this movie was shut down is because Will Smith slapped Chris Rock at the Oscars. I have somewhat of a different opinion about that, but I hope I don't get copyright strike. If I do, oh well. But we're gonna play some of the things that he said. Some of the things that he said in
That would be wild if you got a copyright claim on this video. I'm very curious to see how this happens. Shout out to John Campea, man. He's the GOAT. He's the GOAT. It's always fun to take the piss, especially because he's got such strong opinions. But let's be real. I don't think either of us would be here if it wasn't for John Campea. So shouts to John Campea.
Yes, definitely shout out to him.
He does have some wild takes, though, my guy.
He does. He really does. And we're going to play some of these wild takes real quick.
Now, probably was never going to be Return of Jafar, but it was probably going to be like a new original story. The way they did the first one really did set it up that there's more story to tell with these characters. I was very excited about it. So as early as February 2020, Disney was saying, confirmed, it's in the works. We're making this movie. Then we'd hear little chatter here and there about what was going on and stuff like that. Then March of 2022 comes. Will Smith, in all of his wisdom, decides to walk on stage and physically assault Chris Rock and smacks him on live television at the Oscars.
One of the greatest moments of 2022, if I might add.
A very carefully, wonderfully crafted public image that he had for most of his life. And I still love Will Smith. I do, but that was monumentally stupid what he did. And after March of 2022, nearly a full year passed where we heard nothing. All of a sudden, nobody was talking about Aladdin 2 anymore, the possibilities of it, until March of 2023, when the star of Aladdin, Mina Massoud, said this, that in responding to somebody on social media, that the possibilities of Aladdin 2 were now very unlikely. Wasn't going to happen. Look, lots of movies have a plan to get made, and then a million different things come along that prevent it from ever happening. It happens all the time in the business.
Yes.
But this Aladdin thing was something that, no pun intended, captured magic in a bottle, was an astounding success, exceeded all expectations, made over $1 billion at the box office, and headlines and things like Variety and whatnot declaring that Disney has officially planned, it's in the works, it's moving, it's going, this movie's going to happen. Honestly, even though I acknowledge we're in a business where a lot of different things can happen, I think we can safely say at this point now in 2023, heading into 2024, this movie, number one, is never going to happen. And number two, I think it's safe to say that the incident we're still feeling the repercussions of the incident at the Oscars. I think the Will Smith slap killed this movie, which is
Okay, I'm gonna stop that right there.
Come on,
So
dude. Let's keep it going. I can never get enough of this guy freaking talking.
Okay.
No, you're good.
I mean, the reason why I stopped it right there is because there's some things I agree with, and there's some things that I don't.
I'm curious about your take on this, Alex. I know you're about to give it to me, but like, I listened to it along with you. I think the one of the thing that resonates with me is that I think the pun was intended. I think he meant when he said magic in a bottle, he thought about it ahead of time. And he's like, if I say magic in a bottle here related to Aladdin, that's the very definition of pun intended. But anyways, I've digressed. What do you got, man?
So Rod, just follow me as I give my
let's go.
First of all, let me just say, starting off the bat, what Jeremy said, if it wasn't for him in terms of what he did back with For Your Consideration, AMC, Collider, and even what he's doing now, a lot of us wouldn't be on YouTube or any platform commentating about films or about the film industry or anything like that. So I want to point out, I have nothing but love and respect for Campea. I've had Robert Meyer Burnett on my show twice. Me and him have a good relationship. I've actually spoken to Chris through social media, try to have her on, but she's been busy with stuff. And I've actually spoke before Kimberly Kern, before she left the show, and even after the show, I tried to have her on, but again, she's working on stuff. So I am familiar of the John Campea family. The only people I have not spoken to is Ray and Jonathan. So I'm not sure if Campea is aware of who I am as a person, but I will say he's aware that I've had some of his I've been in contact with some of his people, and some of his people have been on my show. So I'm prefacing that by saying this.
John Campea is a freaking piece of shit. No, my bad.
That was Jeremy who said that, not Alex. By the way, the comments that I don't say, I am not responsible for. I'll throw that out there. Okay. This was the most idiotic segment I think I've ever seen.
Let's go. All right.
Ever. And I say that with love and respect, bro. I really do. Only because what he's missing in his statement, he's right that yes, this movie made over $1 billion. Also, this film did well enough to start conversations back in 2020. What he's conveniently missing is the fact that we went through a pandemic where Disney by itself not only went through a sea change in terms of its leadership with Bob Chapek, but they also fired a lot of people working at different departments at Disney. Pixar, they fired people at Marvel, they fired people at Lucasfilm, they fired people at Disney Home Animation, they fired people from the fucking theme parks. And I'm trying to stop cussing, but they stopped. What I'm saying is that Disney had lost billions of dollars. And also, let me point out, Disney Plus was only out for about a year. And I know you're probably asking, what does that have to do with this? Disney Plus in itself is costing Disney money. So you had that come out within a year, and then the pandemic happens. Now they're hemorrhaging more money. A lot of future projects that they had that weren't on the docket, because I can guarantee you Aladdin 2 was not on the docket in terms of fully development. They were not considering making because of the fact of the deficit that happened. Even Stephen A. Smith had said when Bob Iger came back to reshape the company, a lot of people at ESPN, and not just commentators, but makeup design artists and people like that, lost their jobs. That's why they're trying to get rid of ESPN as a whole and making its own entity. That's why they're trying to get rid of ABC. Now, you're probably asking, what does this have to do with Aladdin 2? Okay, first of all, let me just say this. Although Aladdin 2 was I think it was a really dope live action remake, or not Aladdin 2, Aladdin. Minnie Masao had came out way before 2023 and said he couldn't even find a job after Aladdin, the first one. So it was hard for him to find gigs. Not only that, um, people were not clamoring for another Aladdin movie in comparison to what Disney was already putting out. And I say all this to say Will Smith slapping Chris Rock has nothing to do, in my opinion. I'll say this. Maybe it had a little bit to do of why Aladdin 2 didn't come out, or it's probably not coming out, but that is not the sole reason, because of the fact that man has been in Emancipation that was already filmed by the time that side happened. It came out in theaters and on Apple Plus. He is currently, well, before the actor strike, he was currently filming Bad Boys 4. And some of the other projects that he had with other streaming services got greenlit after after things kind of died down for about a couple months. Now I understand that Disney is a family company. They don't want something like they don't want a negative image portrayed in some of their movies. Okay, but here's the thing. I don't think, as I'm just speaking from a company standpoint, if my movie made over $1 billion and I know that the second movie could either make the same amount or more, or maybe a little bit less, it's not going to flop, but a little bit less. Why would I cancel a second project because of one person's actions when all I could do is just recast him?
Yeah.
They were already against Will Smith being Genie because Robin Williams had died. So him casting, so Bob Iger or whoever's over, Bob Iger recasting Genie wouldn't be so much of an issue to put out in Aladdin 2. And my overall take is that Aladdin 2 wasn't necessarily on the books to be produced in the next 5 years after the first movie. I don't believe it was. And also a lot of stuff had changed when Chapek got into office, their regime. So maybe Bob Chapek has switched some things around in terms of the releases of movies. And I'm saying all that to say, I would think Campea is smart enough to know that a slap that did happen on ABC, which is owned by Disney, is not enough reason why to cancel $1 billion franchise because of one person's actions. That is stupid. I don't believe that. So my thing is, the reason why I say I don't believe that for a second, Terrence Howard said some shit about Disney, didn't come back for Iron Man 2. What did they do? They recasted him with Don Cheadle, and it worked perfectly. Now I know that's apples and oranges, but Terrence Howard ain't a saint in Hollywood either. I've heard some stuff. I'm just saying he's not a saint in Hollywood either. So my thing is, I can argue that the MCU is even a family franchise to an extent, depending on what you're watching. So for me personally, I don't believe that Will Smith's actions is the reason why this movie it's not going to ever get made. Just to simplify this is, we had a lot of shit happen in 2020 that they're still recovering off of. Bob Iger is now in a position now to reshape Disney, which he's been doing and still going to continue to do. And also, they are focusing on, like I said, different original projects. And I don't believe if Bob Iger is intelligent enough to cancel $1 billion franchise because of one person's actions. It's not like Will Smith was the main character, because he wasn't. I mean, he played a really good Genie. I will give him that. But you can recast him. And I don't think that a simple recast, I don't think one person's actions requires a full movie shutdown. Just recast the character. So this is why I say that take that he had was idiotic because I don't believe they really had plans to make Aladdin 2 until maybe 2020, what 2027, 2028. Because even if you look at The Little Mermaid, what was the next live action Disney movie that was going to come out after that? I can guarantee you it wasn't Aladdin 2. So me personally, it wasn't refocused. So again, to simplify it, you had a lot of shit happen in 2020. You had a regime change in terms of leadership. I don't believe that it was the main focus of their docket of putting out live action. And also, I don't believe one person's actions would cancel a $1 billion franchise. I mean, Jeremy, am I wrong? Am I wrong in saying that? After hearing the clip, and we can play more if you want, but after hearing the clip, do you think Will Smith is the reason why Aladdin 2 is not happening?
I just want to go back to your point where you mentioned Terrence Howard and Don Cheadle. I remember that reason very well, and I agree with your opinion, Alex. I believe that what you're saying is they can just recast Genie with any black guy because audiences won't know the difference. Is that what you're saying on the record?
Not what I'm saying you can recast him. People would know the difference regardless.
You remember that? You remember one of these guys?
I do remember that though. That was funny.
Wild. What a crazy thing to say. No, I don't disagree with you, man. Look, disclaimer, John Campea, he's daddy. He's my dad. He's my actual biological father. And also I haven't spoken to him since I was born, so he owes me child support. Or my mom child support. No, but for real, not to take away from John Campea, man. John Campea is the GOAT, but he has some wild opinions every once in a while. And I remember, to back up a little bit, yeah, there were outrage. There were two camps of outrage with the Will Smith slap, right? And then there was kind of me and you and Ian in the middle, kind of laughing about it, because you can't physically assault people. But he didn't shoot him. I mean, I've heard what was that dude, Tory Lanez, who
shot Megan Thee Stallion, yeah.
And nobody cares as much about that as they do Will Smith slapping Chris Rock. It's wild. Let's not conflate it into something that it wasn't. So there were the people that are it's an affront on comedy. He ruined and disgraced Hollywood and da-da-da. And then there's the other side of it. It's no, Chris Rock shouldn't have been talking shit on Jada Pinkett, which I also don't agree with. It's I wasn't as emotionally invested in it as Chris Rock or Will Smith, so I don't understand why the public had to go and make it such a big divisive thing. So the truth is, though, Alex, I agree with what you're saying. I don't think this decision was based on that alone. But I also wouldn't put it past the studios. Say, the notes came across the table the day after the Oscars. And they're all right, look, today's the day. We're deciding, are we going to make Aladdin 2 with Will Smith or not? And the person's I mean, with this shit going on with Will Smith right now, is this really the right direction that we want to go? And maybe that would have swayed their opinion a lot more on that day. But like you said, there are so many variables. There's so many things that could have happened that you can't point to one thing and be oh no, it's because of the slap heard round the world, the most important slap that's ever happened in the history of mankind. It's not that big a deal. You know what would be dope, dude? Cast Chris Rock as the genie in the next Aladdin movie. That would mess people's heads up, bro.
Oh my God. You talking about that would be the most gangster stuff I've ever seen in a Disney movie. Okay, we're gonna fire you, but we're gonna hire the person that you assaulted. Oh my God,
dude.
That would be hilarious.
So if we see that movie, I'll be rushing out to see Aladdin 2. Also, I mean, you make so many good points, dude. Beauty and the Beast was very successful. Little Mermaid was very successful. The Lion King was very successful. Aladdin was very successful. Snow White's probably going to be very successful. The Rescuers Down Under, whatever the next live action remake of a Disney movie, it's going to be incredibly successful. So why greenlight the sequel for one over the other. They could make money off of Lion King 2. They could make money off of Little Mermaid 2. They could make money off of another Aladdin. And if I'm not mistaken, Aladdin wasn't the most critically lauded of the group. I feel like they typically sit around like a 70% range, and that Aladdin was closer to like a 55 or a 60% range, according to Rotten Tomatoes when you come to the tomato meter. So the consensus wasn't as unanimously positive, though I do think it had some redeeming factors. Will Smith as the genie being one of the best parts of the movie. So I think Campea's got hot takes. I don't think he's totally out of line by having an opinion on this, but I do think it's wild. I tend to side more with your perspective on it, and that is, if there's a million factors that it could potentially be, we can't point to one and say that's the reason.
Exactly. Now I will say in the video, he does says there could be 1,000,001 reasons why this didn't happen. But according to him, he believes this was the final nail in the coffin of any development of a Aladdin 2 movie. And I just simply disagree with that. Respectfully. I respectfully disagree with that, because and you know, if Bob, you know, it's funny because you did make up a good point. You said that I wouldn't be surprised if Disney were to do something like that, because Disney, you know, they have carte blanche over anything, so they can make they don't have to make money solely off of Aladdin. So I can understand them doing that. I'm just saying, from a businessman standpoint, if I make a film and it makes $1 billion, statistically, the second film is going to either make about half that, or maybe the same, or maybe more, depending how good it is. If people really like the first one, if I have $1 billion franchise, you think I'm going to just scrap it because one idiot decides to be a butthole because he slapped somebody at the Oscars? I don't think so. I think that's very reactionary. For instance, they did not, when they canceled James Gunn, they didn't cancel Guardians of the Galaxy 3.
That's a good point.
Nor did they cancel the holiday special. If anything, they apologized to James Gunn and hired him back.
And when Gina Carano got fired, it's not like they canceled the rest of the season of Mandalorian. They just didn't write her into the next one.
Exactly. All
That's
I'm
a good
simply
point.
saying is that there have been people who've worked at Disney, and they have done probably not to the same egregious things as Will Smith, maybe even worse. They've done some things, and Disney acted accordingly, and where it didn't affect their bottom line. You know, and again, like, for instance, I'm not saying Stephen A. Smith is a bad person, but that man has said some stuff on camera that you would think he would have been canceled or fired or something, and he's running ESPN. And if you think so, my thing is, if they can forgive someone and give someone a chance like Stephen A. Smith to continue doing what he's doing on First Take, they could easily recast Will Smith, because it shouldn't affect their bottom line. I don't know. That's just me. And again, I don't know the big execs from Disney. I do know a couple people who work at Disney, and I can honestly tell you, even when they saw the video, they said that's not the reason why they're canceling Aladdin 2. And what I got from the guy who works in the marketing department at Disney, they said it's not on the docket. Simple.
Shout out to Kevin, the custodian over at Fantasyland at Disney. He's my shoe-in over there. So what up, Kevin?
Exactly. What's up, Kevin? But yeah, like, it's not on the, as of right now, in terms of, like, you got to understand, these studios plan their movies and TV shows years in advance. They do make adjustments throughout the years. That being said, if Aladdin 2 wasn't on the next 10-year slate, it's just not going to be there unless they decide to retroactively add it on there. So I don't know. Again, Campea, if you're watching this, I am not saying this to shit on you as a person. I think you are a great commentator. However, this particular point, out of all of the things I've heard you say over the course of years, some have been some hot takes, some have been some things I can agree with. This in particular, I just thought was the most idiotic thing that you could say. And that's saying that's saying a lot coming from me, because I know you're connected in the studios. You could easily just got a quote. And if that's what they told you, I don't know who your sources are, but I think they're lying to you. But then again, I don't know.
I got one more. Learn the difference between pun intended and pun not intended. We trust a certain level of integrity from you. So with all the disrespect from the bottom of my heart, who coming from someone who has never had a bad take and never said anything wrong in my life, get your shit together, John Campea.
Please. Please. All right. Now we got one more topic from one of our questions for the show. And this is the last topic. It's in regards to Expendables 4. And this comes from, hold on, let me pull up the question. Okay, Mr. Daniel Bradley.
What up, Daniel Bradley?
Oh, okay. So,
question mark.
Yeah, I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. But okay. So he writes, "Hey guys, love the show. Keep doing what you're doing. So I am a huge fan of Expendables. It is one of my guilty pleasure films. I have seen the Expendables movies multiple times, and I've been wondering,
I can't even take this guy seriously. Next question." Oh, just playing, Daniel.
He said, "I've been wondering if they're going to continue building and branching out their cinematic universe." I'm sorry, that threw me off. Their cinematic universe. However, Expendables 4 has flopped, and I'm wondering if they will continue the series. The director recently came out and said that they're not so sure about an Expendables 5. Did you watch Expendables 4, and what do you think about the franchise as a whole?
Much like Dolph Lundgren, without his daily dose of Viagra, Expendables 4 has flopped. Right.
Okay. So
like a flaccid penis, Alex. Get it?
I hate you. Oh my gosh. Yeah, okay. So it's funny because as Jeremy was talking, and what you said to me as I was reading that question, you said, "I can't take this seriously."
We have fun on the Ask Alex show.
Oh my god. And I started to think about it. I was like, yo, am I really reading this right now? Okay, I'm sorry, Daniel, if you're watching, I'm sorry.
It's all love. Yeah.
It's so out of love. But okay, I am not. I kind of view the Expendables franchise kind of similar to the Fast and Furious franchise. The only difference is that with the Fast and Furious franchise, it actually has a good root foundation of storytelling. Like, there's a reason why you go watch the Fast and Furious, because you want to see some of the characters progress in terms of whatever narratives that they set up. However, it has got, that franchise in particular has gotten to a point now we're only watching how ridiculous that they can go, right? Expendables has always been, since the first movie, how ridiculous they can go in terms of decapitating somebody. You know, that's essentially what they do. I mean, even in the third movie, which I think the third movie is a good movie, that one's PG-13, but it's everything you love about Expendables movie, just no decapitation. Essentially, that's all it is. Like, people are not losing like their dicks, like they're literally losing. They're just getting shot and they're falling down instead of getting shot and their head is blowing off. You know. But I'll say this. One, I did see Expendables 4, and I'm gonna be honest with you. Like, I view all the Expendables movies. They're dumb fun. This one on this particular one was, I didn't really like it as much as I did the other ones. And solely because of just some narrative stuff, like they made, and again, Jeremy's never seen these movies, so I don't really think he cares if I spoil certain things.
I don't care.
But making Megan Fox the freaking leader of these Expendables after Jason Statham, or not just after Barney dies, like really, Megan? When have we seen Megan Fox be a badass? Really? You couldn't give that to Jason. You couldn't give that to anybody else. You give it to her. And you know why? Well, I would have been okay if you would have gave it to 50 Cent's character. But I digress. Anyway, I'll say this. You know, it's a dumb, fun movie. But the reason why it tanked at the box office is not solely because of the strikes that are going on. It tanked at the box office because it's not a good movie, man. It's not. And to your broader question, will they expand out this universe for Expendables 5? I mean, if a studio is willing to pay for it, possibly. But after seeing the performance of this movie, no. And the Expendables, again, they're not like the franchise itself is expendable. Think about what I just said. The franchise itself is expendable, meaning the studios don't really give a shit about this. They don't. I don't really believe that they do, because if you look at the first one up until the last one, none of the storylines make sense. What they're doing essentially is they're just adding who's the hot badass actor that they're going to put into their franchise. That's essentially what they're doing. Because if you look at I remember the second movie where they were adding so many action stars like Van Damme, Wesley Snipes, and all these different people. And I'm like, is this just like a 90s rendition of all these old Arnold and Sly movies coming together just so we can see them interact with one another and kill people? Because essentially that's what it is. That's all it is these old 80s and 90s action stars coming together, killing people. Now they're adding new blood, which is like 50 Cent, Megan Fox, Tony Jaa, and all these other different people. Again, the action scenes I think were great, but the Expendables as a franchise needs to die. I think it needs to die, or just continue it on Netflix. They buy a lot of dumb shit anyway. So like continue it on a streaming service where essentially it's going to get the views, but you know, no one may watch it. I don't know. I don't believe this movie will warrant a cinematic universe. And after watching it, I don't think it should. Jeremy's never seen any of these movies. I'm just curious to see what your take is on the franchise as a whole.
You know what's wild is that this is the first Expendables movie that I watched the trailer and was like, you know what, that looks kind of fun. Don't know why. I think it's I think it's got like a 15% on Rotten Tomatoes, which I think some of the other movies like were kind of well liked. So I don't know what it is about my preferences or my taste that I'm like, yeah, that one looks good. I think I like Jason Statham a lot, man. I'm a big fan of Jason Statham. Megan Fox looking crazy good in this movie. Iko Uwais. I know I'm butchering that name, and I apologize about that, Iko, if you're watching at home. He was from The Raid and The Raid 2 Redemption. He is one of the just best martial artists working in the industry today. Of course, I love 50 Cent and Tony Jaa and Dolph Lundgren and Andy Garcia and Stallone and Randy Couture. And like you said, it's kind of, I mean, the whole point of Expendables as a franchise is that these guys are all past their prime. But yeah, when you've resorted to sticking the 4 in the middle of the letters of your name and it's Expendables instead of Expendables, it's like, all right, you've run your course as a franchise. You're getting too high up there. I kind of want to go back and watch them, man. I kind of want to go back and watch them just so that I have the cultural context. But I do agree with what you're saying about like, is there more? Is there more that you can really do? Other than, and you might have an update on this that I'm not aware of, but do you remember there was supposed to be one called Expendables coming out and
Yeah,
it have a
yeah.
female cast? Is that still going to happen, you think?
No, because remember that was supposed to be in replace of Expendables 3, but they decided to make an Expendables 3 movie instead.
I got you. Okay. Well, another example of movies being put on the chopping block without any real specific rhyme or reason, John. You know what I'm talking about, John. So yeah, I'm curious to check them out, Alex. Which is your favorite of them?
The second one.
All right.
The second one is actually really good because of where they go. I mean, it's all of it. All it is a revenge story, but it's a good revenge story.
Who's your favorite character out of the main guys in the franchise?
Oh.
And why is it Jason Statham? No, I'm just kidding. I was telling Victoria last night, I'm like, Jason Statham is the GOAT. And she's like, why? And I'm like, I don't know. And she's like, is it because he's bald? I was like, yeah. She's like, is it because he's like grizzled? I was like, yeah, I think it's that. And I think it's because he's British also. Like,
but you know, it's funny. You know, I was gonna say either Jason Statham or for comedy purposes, Jet Li. But,
okay.
I would say this. Jason Statham, I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jeremy, but do you think Jason Statham plays the same character since the Transporter series?
Oh, 100%. I think that is Jason Statham. 100%.
Because me personally, when you watch it, it's no different than him. Like, for instance, Jason Statham in Fast and Furious is Jason Statham in Transporter, Expendables. There was a spy movie spoof movie that he was in
called Spy.
Yeah, and he's literally playing himself. Like, he's playing the Transporter, but it's a comedy. It's like, okay, he's the fuck up out of the group versus the person who's actually the spy. And I'm like, wow. Even in a comedy, he's still the same.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I love about what I love about these movies. For sure, we're gonna watch Jason Statham be a badass in every movie that he's in and be himself. That's what I love about the Expendables. But after killing people and adding different stuff and, you know, revenge stories and all, it's all the same. It is literally all the same. So they should either do like what they used to do, direct to DVD, or now that we have streaming, let's do direct to streaming and come up with something different. If we're going to tell a story about mercenaries or assassins, let it be something intriguing. Don't just have these 90 stars. Like, this is like literally a movie version of Call of Duty.
Put them shits out on Laserdisc, like for the novelty purpose. Like we used to watch Stallone and Dolph Lundgren, or you go even further back than that. Give us VHS versions of the Expendables that you sell for us old heads that want the real experience, where you got to like hit the fast forward button and wait. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
What I miss.
Oh man, those were some good times, bro. It's funny you say that because I remember just a side story. Remember Hurricane Ivan?
Yeah.
Bro, that's all when we had that VHS player, I would go back and watch some of these old movies. That's how I fell in love with House Party, because my dad had VH1. I mean, they had a VHS House Party 1 and 2, and I watched that on repeat.
You got to see them over and over again.
Over and over and over. Because like, cable was gone, and then once we finally got DirecTV, then it started playing. But man, like that just takes me back. But yes, yeah. I agree with Jeremy. Bro, put these things on VHS. Don't make it at all. That's the reason why. That's right. The reason why it takes at the box office. But what do you guys think? Did you guys watch Expendables 4? And what do you think about the franchise as a whole? Jump into the comment section below. Let us know your thoughts. And that will do it for today's episode of the Ask Alex Show. I want to thank you guys so much who joined us live, Mr. Mark McKeever and others. Also, I want to thank Jeremy for being on the show. Where can we find you on YouTube and social media?
I feel pretty good about this show, man. I think we solved some of the big issues in the world. It was fun anyways. I enjoyed it. Check out Lucid Memory on YouTube. I am 297 subscribers. It's not a massive number. I'm certainly not bragging about that number, but I am proud of what I'm building over there. And being this close to 300 puts me like right there, brushing up against a nice little milestone. So if you want to help put me over the top, let's hit 300 this weekend, and then from there we'll see where things go. But yeah, Lucid Memory on YouTube. Jeremy Branch, look me up on social media.
Awesome. And you know where to find us, guys, here at Momentum Media. Stay tuned, guys. I'm gonna talk to Jeremy about this off camera briefly, but Marvel movie trivia is coming soon. I shot a couple episodes. It's just like I said, this is the most heavy special effects show I think I've ever made for YouTube. And I'm so glad I upgraded my computer, because this show it's like Schmodown times 1,000. That's how dedicated I am to the show. And I gotta get Jeremy and Ian to do a match and do others. So it's coming along nicely. So stay tuned for that. I'm trying to get that out by the end of this year. Because like I told Jeremy off camera, by the end of this year, I will be going into full filmmaker mode for a film that I'm developing. So Marvel,
I'm going to put this on the record right now, Alex, and this is an open invitation really to anybody. You don't stand a chance against me in trivia. It could be Marvel movie trivia. It can be biology trivia. I sit and I play Jeopardy along with the show, and I do all right. Let me just say that. So if you want the smoke, line up, people. You ain't got a chance.
Yes, line up, because this is gonna be a ride that you'll never forget.
Yes,
but yes, so stay tuned for that. We're gonna try to get that out by the end of this year. Thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, you guys have a blessed day. All right, let me hit end.